12 seconds to go. Florida trying to end it up against the wall, which would be fitting. 3 seconds to go. The Florida Panthers have won Stanley Cup. For the first time in their 30-year history, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. They made it about as hard on themselves as they possibly could, battling a valiant Edmonton team that had rallied from adversity all season long. And Paul Maurice, coaching lifer, 30 years in the National Hockey League, has his Stanley Cup.
What the puck is going on?
Here's your host of What the Puck is Going On, Dave Metzger.
All right, welcome back in Monday night. That means it's time for some hockey. Steve, what the puck is going on this evening? 4-game slate here. So not too much to go over, but we'll find some. And I think things are going to get interesting here. I've got a breaking news bulletin. The Florida Panthers defenseman Aaron Ekblad hit with a 20-game suspension for PED usage.
Interesting.
So we got to wonder what that's going to do to him. So, Steve, let's jump into the standings here. Starting in the East, as usual, Florida Panthers leading that division, 83 points. Toronto with 79 in second, and Tampa with 78. So the top three there, Steve, not a lot of separation. And you have to wonder what that breaking news is going to mean for Florida. Not that big of a lead there, and they already have some injuries, you know, a guy like Tkachuk being out until possibly the playoffs. I think they're going to get him back for that. But, Steve, the top three here, is that alarming news for you here with Florida in first place?
They acquire Marchand after the Bruins have thrown in the towel for the season. So you would think that they would have some stability. Now they get hit with this news. It'll be interesting to see how the team reacts. It will be. Obviously, the division is still up for grabs. They have that 4-point lead. They've won 6 in a row. They're as hot, or if not hotter, than any team in the National Hockey League at the moment. They've gone from contender to possibly favorites just to win it all again and repeat. So interesting news. Always a curveball. We'll have to see how they respond here with that. I imagine they'll just be fine and they'll rally around it. Find it probably hard to believe that he did anything super intentional. Probably one of those things where he's taking some kind of medicine or something like that. That has a steroid in it that's banned, and he tests positive. I myself have been on several steroids the last 2 years for various ailments. So I can see how it could happen. I'll assume they won't miss a beat, and if those 20 games trickle into the playoffs, which I imagine that they would, then they'll get them back for game 3 of the first series. So maybe no harm, no foul if they can, no pun intended, skate through the first round.
Right, and you got to think it would take something pretty drastic at this point for them to miss the playoffs. So, yeah, Steve, you know, that's a good way to look at it. He's back for, game 3 of the first round. So maybe not too big of a deal there. Toronto, not feeling very good. Losers of 3 in a row right now. Tampa lost their last time out, but still got to think that they're a hot team right now. Only 1 point out of second place. You got to think they're going to want home ice advantage if Toronto is indeed their first round matchup. But I think they have higher aspirations than that, and I think they're looking to win this division, which is certainly possible. They're only 5 points out right now, and they're playing some very good hockey. So
the loss to the Bruins is a little concerning to me. I mean, the Bruins.
That was an ugly one.
Away. Yeah. They trade everyone away, and then they go down and beat Tampa 2-0. That's a game Tampa has to win to me in order to climb the standings. I mean, that's almost a free pass, and they didn't take advantage of it.
I think it was actually 4-0, Steve. I think they got a couple.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, I turned it off at 2-0. Yeah. They probably got some empty netters right after that. Yes.
Yep. So they got 2 of those. That is a concerning loss. But Boston themselves thinking
it does happen.
Hey, it happens, and they got a couple guys in return. So they're thinking, hey, we could still possibly do this. So we'll keep an eye on that. They are a decent ways back anyway. Into the Metro, much different story. Washington leading this division with 92 points. Carolina in second with 80, and New Jersey there with 74. Steve, that kind of has the writing is on the walls there. I think that stays the same throughout. You're talking a 12-point lead for Washington. They'd really have to squander things. Seems like they've kind of found their game again, winning last time out. They were losing that game. They come back, comeback fashion is seems to be a trend for them. But Steve, the Metro here, is that something that you just see staying the same here with where we're at?
I'm not so sure. Just in relative to the Devils, I could see them dropping out of that top 3. To be honest,
they're treading water right now.
They haven't been impressive. And here comes Columbus. I mean, Columbus hit their slump. They get back to their winning ways in a big way, knocking out off the Rangers 7-3 over the weekend. And that 4-point lead over Columbus is definitely one that can evaporate, potentially even over the course of this week. Just 4-6 in their last 10 are the Devils. They are one of the better defensive teams in the league, that's for sure. Just allowing 165 goals. But the injury now to Hughes, and that opens up a whole bag of worms for how successful this team can be moving forward. If they fall apart a little bit more, that will not surprise me. And if Columbus ends up in that 3rd spot.
No, Steve, it wouldn't surprise me at all either. And I think Columbus can definitely do it. They've got some good momentum on their side, and the Devils again, they're just they better be careful. That's all I'm saying. I could definitely see them sliding out of that position. So I'm glad that you bring that up. Let's touch on this wild card here. Columbus,
I think a lot of people, Dave, I'm sorry. I think a lot of people thought of the Devils as a legit Stanley Cup contender at the beginning of the season. I'm not so sure anyone thinks
I was one of them.
Yeah.
No, that point of view has completely changed. And I could absolutely see Columbus overtaking them the way things are kind of shaking out to this point. Columbus, as you mentioned, is holding the top spot in the wild card for now with 70 points. Right behind them, though, is Ottawa, and they're in action tonight. The Rangers with 68, Detroit with 66. They're really kind of letting things slide, and that's the opponent there for the Senators tonight. So we'll take a good look at that game. Very meaningful for both teams. Montreal with 66. There's Boston with 66, and the Islanders with 65. You have a team like Philly with 62. I've watched a couple of their games within the past week or so, and Steve, I just don't think they have it. Even if they were to make it, we always say all you have to do is get into that tournament. I don't think that really applies to them in my eyes. They just don't seem to have it in the games that I've watched. So I kind of put them, kind of kicked them to the curb. Everybody else more or less is still in it. But Detroit, I think, is my team that's, along with the Devils, that's really into some hot water. So what do you think of this wild card race?
It's tough. Look at it. I mean, you're looking at right now with the Ranger or Ottawa in the last spot, correct? And the Rangers are
Ottawa, yes.
And the Rangers are 1 point out of it. But the Rangers, they've lost 3 in a row. The Red Wings have lost 5 in a row. The Canadiens have lost a pair of games now. The Bruins 2-6-2 in their last 10. The Islanders don't seem to want it, 4-6 in their last 10. And the Flyers, like you said, have lost 4 in a row. So no one seems to want that last spot. And so almost if Ottawa can just keep playing really, really good hockey, which they have, I think they've been a nice grinded out type of team, then they're going to find themselves in that last wild card spot. It is up for grabs, Dave, but these teams need to turn it around on the ones on the outside looking in here. It's still right for the picking. If one of these teams can get hot, they can definitely find themselves into the playoffs. But, man, it doesn't seem like anyone wants it.
No, these teams are just letting all these opportunities slide right now. And you got to think time is going to run out soon. We're getting on the cusp. I think most teams with about 18 games to play. To me, Steve, that's pretty much the stretch. Going down the stretch is what that means to me. So these teams really need to pick it up and take advantage of these opportunities that they have to get points. And
right.
As you mentioned, none of them are doing it. So very interesting stuff there in the East, and we'll keep an eye on that wild card race. So into the West, we'll start here in the Central. Winnipeg leading with 92 points. I don't see anybody catching them. Dallas is right there behind. But if things kind of go the way they're going, I think Dallas comes very close, but they're going to end up in that 2 spot. Colorado, how about them, Steve? That's a team that we haven't really talked a lot of positivity about anyway. They move into that 3rd spot with 78 points, kicking Minnesota down to a wild card spot. And I'll tell you what, Steve, if you've watched any of the Avalanche's games, they've made some key additions, and they are looking to get it together at the right time. They are about as hot as anybody else right now. So I think that they're somebody to watch out there for in the Central now that they've kind of retooled things, and as hot as they are. So what do you make out of those top 3?
I completely agree with you, Dave. The Wild, I think, are a fraud. I think we can agree with that. I mean, they barely skate by the Penguins here over the weekend. They do not have enough sustained offense, in my eyes, to move forward with any success. But Colorado can light the lamp here. Like you said, they're better. Winners of 5 in a row now. They're winning the games that they need to. They're beating the opponents that they need to. And where I thought this was perhaps a 2-horse race with the Jets and the Stars, here come the Avalanche. And who's built best for the playoffs here? It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Colorado, for sure. I mean, they have the pedigree. I think we can see them make some sort of a deep run here in the West come playoff time. So, yeah, I like what Colorado has done. I think they're a very dangerous team at this point. I was listening to some well-respected NHL analyst here in the last week, trying to get a grasp on what they're thinking. A lot of people don't seem to think that the Jets and the Stars have a chance to come out of the West. I completely disagree with that. I still think those are 2 really, really good teams that play the type of hockey in the regular season that can carry through to the playoffs. So I'm not going to write them off as good as they've been and the mishaps that they've both have had in recent playoff years past. I still think either one could represent the West at the end. But, yes, the Avalanche stock is up. The odds never said so Probably. I mean, they've always been a nice low odd payout. You're not getting much on your return if you've been betting Avalanche futures. But yes, be aware of Colorado.
Yeah, Steve, I agree with you. That's an absolutely ridiculous take. You're telling me Winnipeg and Dallas can't go deep, especially Dallas. We
Right.
talked a lot about them last week.
And
Still
especially
pretty
with what
high
the
on
West
them.
has to offer. I mean, overall,
Right.
Who are the contenders then?
Yeah,
Obviously Vegas is good, and we'll get to them in a minute. And Edmonton has a chance, but we're not thick here like we are in the East, I think.
No, Steve, and I think a team like Dallas is built to go far. They go and get Rantanen from Carolina. He comes from Colorado, so he's been moved around. They signed him to a big deal. I don't get these analysts over there, especially ESPN guys. Their take on hockey to me is just so super poor.
Right.
Worst thing that ever happened really was going from NBC to ESPN for hockey. It's not the old days coverage anymore. And listening to these guys do these commentaries and different, analyzings of the games, to me, sometimes I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? They just kind of talk to talk at this point. But that's a rant for another day. I don't like ESPN's coverage of the NHL. I think it's terrible.
That's why we do our own coverage, Dave.
Exactly, and the way we cover it, I think we do probably far better job than they do. Just listen to them next time, Steve. Listen to the crap that they spew. It's awful. So anyway, let's get into the Pacific here. We'll leave those yahoos to their own thoughts there. Vegas with 82 points leading the Pacific. Edmonton with 78 in the second spot. Still a little worried about them. We talked about them last week. I still have those same worries. LA was 75. They're kind of creeping up now, trying to take that second spot. You got to figure home ice advantage would be huge if the Oilers are their first round matchup. And you got to think that's probably going to go by way of the Oilers. But maybe if LA can get that home ice advantage, they can kind of, sway things over to their side. So, Steve, what do you think in the Pacific? Is their top three here really that super strong in your eyes?
I don't think so. I really don't. And Edmonton is the prototypical. This is a marathon, not a sprint type of team. If they've slowly climbed up the standings here, and now just 4 points out of first place behind Vegas. Still a little bit more trading left to do here. We'll see what Vegas does at the deadline. See if Edmonton adds some pieces. I just think at the end of the day, we're flawed with the defense of Edmonton. I'm not so sure the Knights have as much firepower at the end of the day offensively to keep them in it. They are very stingy on defense. Got to give them credit there. Known for their offense. Vegas has been really, really tough on defense. I mean, they've only allowed 174 goals, which is fantastic. Not the best in the West, as Winnipeg's only allowed 152. Dallas has only allowed 166. That tells you how good they've been. Even the Kings have allowed 168. We'll see. I think the Pacific, Dave, is the weakest division of the four. Maybe you could argue that would be the Metro, with New Jersey kind of falling apart. But a lot more teams still in contention in that division as opposed to out here in the Pacific. Now you still have Calgary holding that last spot. I know you're going to get to that in a second. And Vancouver is still alive. And, we were looking for the Ducks to surge a little bit. You can't say they're necessarily surging, but still 5-4-1 in their last 10. So they're not playing the worst hockey either, Anaheim.
Right, and 7 points out for them. But one thing, the deadline, Steve, was Friday, so these
Right.
rosters
Yes.
are set.
Yes.
Just
put me
but
on
let's
ESPN.
jump into the wild card here because so Minnesota was 76 points. They hold that top spot right now. Calgary with 70 points. They're holding the second spot. Then you have teams Vancouver with 69, St. Louis with 69, who I still kind of like to sneakily slide in there. I'm not so sure about Calgary or Vancouver.
Well, 7-1-2 in their last 10 days.
Utah not dead yet.
They've been the hottest anyone.
With 66.
St. Louis. So I got you. Did you freeze up?
And who?
Oh, there we go.
Was that St. Louis?
Oh yeah. St. Louis 7-1-2 in their last 10.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it looks like you're frozen on my screen, but I can hear you now. Are you typing on the show computer?
You there?
Yeah, I got you. Are you there?
Okay. All right. Yep, I'm here.
If you're typing on the show computer, don't do that. I think that's
is really the only team left that I'd say still has a chance. All right, Steve, that's the standings. It should be good. I don't know why.
You're freezing up a little bit. Are you are you typing on the show computer at all? Okay.
No. Yeah, because you're coming in and out on my side, so I don't know what's going on here.
Just a bad connection.
Good old technology. All right, we coming in clear. We want to try and tackle this slate.
I got you. Yeah, keep going. Yep.
All right. All right, so let's jump into the slate here. First up, Edmonton in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. You're over under here, 6.5. Edmonton heavily favored in this one. One is minus 192 on the money line. Let's take a look here at the goalies tonight. Pekka Luukkonen in goal for Buffalo. Stuart Skinner in goal for Edmonton. And Steve, I gotta be honest with you, I haven't really looked at this one a whole lot. I don't know. You're gonna kind of have to really climb the ladder for the Oilers here to get anything decent. And again, we see these teams that should win these games, and they're not. And that trend is kind of scared me away from Edmonton right now. I think at the end of the day, Steve, this is a no play for me.
I think we could see some goals in this game. I think Edmonton's capable of scoring here on the road.
The over might be the play.
I think the Sabres can put some goals in the back of the net at home as well. So I think 6.5 is a number that's achievable here with both of these two teams. I'm not going to play it, but if I were forced to pick the best angle, I think it's going to be the over here with Edmonton and Buffalo.
Minus 125 for that.
Right.
All right, so I think that's probably
over,
yeah. I think that's probably the most sensible play in that game there. So let's talk about what could be the game of the night between two teams that, we probably don't say this a whole lot about. Detroit heading to Ottawa to take on the Senators. Huge matchup points-wise for these two teams. Very, very meaningful game. Your over-under here is 5.5. Seems a goal low. I think the Senators can score, and if Detroit can just kind of find their way somehow, that they can help that cause a little bit. They haven't been doing it lately, so I can understand why this total is the way it is. And the Detroit team total goals, while maybe a couple weeks ago was a nice pick there for a couple days anyway. And that's really kind of fallen down. So that's not really a play that I would, hang on to anymore. The goalie props here, Cam Talbot in goal for Detroit. Linus Ullmark in goal for Ottawa. I like Ullmark to be probably the little bit better goalie in this one. But Steve, if you're asking me right now, I like the way the Senators have been playing. The last game, I saw the crowd was really involved. Brady Tkachuk gives a nice speech at the end of that game. Yeah,
he's on fire. He's on fire right now, too.
He's playing really well. I think he's probably going to be a goal scorer come the end of the segment here. But, Steve, if you take the Senators on the 60-minute line, it's minus 110. And I think you can sign me up for that.
Yeah, I like the Senators at home tonight. I think the 60-minute line is fine. Probably a lower scoring game. But I could see it something like, if it's 4-2, that's not going to shock me. 5-3 or something like that wouldn't even shock me either. But I think the Senators can hold their form at home here and get this much needed win to keep that spot that they have for the playoffs right now. So, yeah, give me Ottawa in this game.
With a short slate, Steve, a 4-2 correct score ticket might not be the worst deal there on that game. I could see Detroit good for 2, certainly. Maybe it's tight, knowing these two teams really need the points. Ottawa cashes in that empty net. There's your 4-2 score. Right. So next game up, Steve, the
that
Blackhawks.
Pays 17-1.
You know what? I like that. Yeah, we're going to have to take a look at that one. Serious consideration there. The Blackhawks are in Colorado to take on the Avalanche. Your over-under here is 6.5. I think Colorado has a chance to do most of that for you in this game if you want to jump on that play, minus 105 for the over. Check this out, minus 550 for the Avalanche at home tonight versus the Blackhawks. That's kind of, telling you how this one should go. And, Steve, I just talked about how some of these teams you think would win these games aren't winning. So that's a trend to kind of keep an eye on. Somehow, I don't think that applies here. Colorado's hot, and they're finding their game. I see Scott Wedgwood is the only goalie listed right now. I believe that's going to be for Colorado. So, Steve, not much here. Your team totals for the Avalanche is going to be really high. You're going to have to play that at probably 4.5 to get a decent number anyway, if you could call it that. Let's take a look at that real quick because that might not even be that good. No, it's minus 105 for the Avalanche to score 5 goals tonight. Your 60-minute line isn't going to be any better. It's minus 350 for the Avalanche. Just for numbers' sake here, Steve, I think this is a no play.
Yeah, Colorado should win this game handily. I get a little bit of a plus number on over 4.5, and I see minus 310 on the 60-minute line. Even minus 188 on minus 1.5, I think is fair in this one. I think, just like you said, the Avalanche are skating well. They're the hot team here at the right time. It's about time for the Blackhawks to check out for the season at this point. They're going to be playing at altitude as well. So I think this is a fairly simple one for the Avalanche. And when you're looking at the final scores at the end of the night, when you see that it's final score 6-1 or 7-1, like you said, Colorado can maybe get this over by themselves tonight. You'll be kicking yourself why you didn't find some sort of an angle on the Avalanche. Even a minus 3.5 goals. Let's see what we have for an alternate puck line here. Obviously, if you're going to do something like this, just put some small change in a parlay with some other teams. But you're getting plus 260 on minus 3.5. That's not a great payout to win by 4 goals whatsoever. But I think the value's there at -1.5 at -188. I think that's fair.
All right, yeah, I could definitely see that. So it's definitely Colorado or bust here in this one, I think. I wouldn't mind taking a stab at the over there, too, at -105.
Even another good way to do it is, find yourself a goal scorer for this game. You can get Lankinen at +155. You can get Nathan McKinnon at -110. You can get Cal McCarr at +250. You can get Charlie Coyle, the new addition there, and this would be a great game for him to score, +420 for him. So if there's plenty of goals to go around, perhaps just take an Avalanche. Brock Nelson, how about that? +190 for him. Another good acquisition here for the Avalanche, coming over from the Islanders. So maybe find your value in a goal scorer tonight for Colorado.
Yeah, Steve, I think we'll definitely put one of them on the list here when we get to the goal scorers. Last game up for the evening, Toronto is taking on Utah. That one's in Utah, 10:10 p.m. start there. Over under tonight is at 6.5. +110 for the over. I usually would be all over that, but Toronto, losers of their last 3 games, can they kind of right the ship? I don't know if Utah's exactly the team to do that against. They're going to make them work for it. Definitely not a pushover by any means. Toronto is definitely the better team, but Utah's not going to come out and say, here you guys go, you're the better team. That's just not going to happen, I don't think, especially with Utah being at home. Your goaltending matchup tonight, Joseph Woll, there for Toronto. I think he's been pretty solid for them. And Vejmelka, who has been solid for Utah in goal tonight. So the goaltending matchup maybe makes you want to play under 6.5. Maybe a 3-2 outcome here, something like that. But Steve, I think if Toronto has lost 3 in a row, right? Let's go with let's go with some Utah team totals here. Maybe 2.5 is at -165 for that. So that kind of tells you they're expected to score some goals. 4 goals for them is at +145. So Steve, I think in this instant, I think you kind of take a shot at the Maple Leafs being down a little bit. And you play some angles here for Utah. I definitely would not be afraid to do that. Is that something that you could agree with?
Yeah, I think so. Utah is just a tough team for me to handicap in general, especially when they're at home. You feel like they're much better than they are at the road. They do have that unique home ice advantage that these other NHL teams have not been in this arena before to play hockey. Toronto's been on the West Coast now for a while. They've been getting bludgeoned. They've been getting beat up. You got to think that they're rested. That's the good thing that they have going for them. You got to think that they've had some sort of a team meeting. Like, guys, let's get this one tonight. We can't let this one slip by. I mean, the price is right for Toronto. That's for sure, but it's scary. Just like you said, I think if I have to, I will take Toronto just on the money line, -118. They're the better offensive team at the end of the day. They should be able to beat a team like Utah, I would think. So I would lean with Toronto here. But yes, they're not playing their best hockey at all.
Right. All right, Steve, that's the slate. Let's check out these futures real quick. We'll pick some goal scorers. We'll get somebody in the penalty box, and we should be able to get out of here right at the 7 o'clock puck drops. Eastern Conference, Panthers still favored at 3-1 to win that division or conference. Capitals finally getting some respect here. 5-1, the second favorite here. Tampa moving up 5-1. Hurricanes, they're 5-1 as well. Toronto +550. The Devils 14-1. That's not something I would put my money on, though. I do not like what I've seen from them. Steve, I think I could probably speak for you on that as well. The Rangers at 18-1, and the Senators 25-1, and then there's the Jackets still there at that 50-1 number. That's probably
I see them at 80-1 now. So they've dropped in my book back to 80-1.
Oh, there you go. So, again, something we talked about like last week, Steve, you pair them up with somebody like the Celtics or the Thunder to win their respective conferences, and I think you get a nice little play there. So does any of this stick out at the East, knowing we have a couple teams grouped here at 5-1?
Yeah, I mean, just with the Columbus number, now that it's back up, I'm going to have to look to play that. Nothing else interests me right now. I have Florida at plus 190 and still with Carolina at the second shot at plus 460. Caps 5-1. So these books do vary. I'm not a believer in Carolina. Florida, like I said, they seem to be the rightful favorite now. But the Capitals learning how to play gritty and tough, overcoming deficits, which is good. They're not folding their tent when their backs are against the wall. So that's going to hopefully come in handy come playoff time. Interesting to see how this East will shake out at the end, these first round matchups. But the Columbus number is the one, at least on my book, that's inflated again, and I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be taking a look at that one, that's for sure. In the West, Steve, the Dallas Stars now favored to win this conference 3-1. The Oilers at 4-1. Not sure that I like that. That's something myself that I think I stay away from. Colorado plus 550. The Jets at 6-1. If that's somebody we really think is strong in the West, I think I would take a shot at that. The Knights 6-1 as well. The Kings 9-1. Then you have Minnesota at 15-1. That's a stay away from me. Steve, I think you said it perfectly earlier in the show. They just do not have the offense to keep up. Vancouver 35-1. Utah at 75-1. And then, Steve, if St. Louis can get hot and they slide in, that defensive style that they play might pay dividends in the playoffs, and they've got a 90-1 number. I think that's worth a play. What do you think about these numbers in the West?
Well, you might have to look otherwise, Dave, because I got 260-1 right now for the Blues.
Wow.
That does stick out to me for something to take. I see the Flames at 140-1. And all these numbers are fairly low from the start here with Dallas, Edmonton, and the Avalanche. All numbers I'm not interested in. Maybe the Avalanche a plus 440 I can find in some multi-sport round robin. But the Blues number, yes, interesting at 260-1. Right now, if you were to take the Blues and the Jackets on my book in a little two-game parlay, $2 would win $42,000 on a bet.
Oh, loving that, Steve. I'm definitely gonna have to shop around a little bit. That's worth a couple of El Cheapo plays anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely I'll definitely shop around, take a look at those. But Steve, it's that time in the evening. Let's pick us a couple goal scorers.
All right, we'll go ahead and get the horn cranked up here. Go ahead. What do you got, Dave?
All right, Steve. Tonight I'm gonna go. I got two guys. We're gonna pick a Senator and Drake Batherson at plus 240. Maybe a little bit under the radar, somebody you wouldn't think about. But he does play a pretty good role there in that offense, I think. Good puck mover for sure. And then we're going to go with Marty Necas there in Colorado. If we got some goals to go around, why not the star player there that they got from Carolina in that trade with for Mikko Rantanen. Marty Necas is going to be at plus 155, Steve. That 2-pick parlay is going to be a plus 767.
All right, I'll give you 4 of them. I'll take. I'll go ahead and give you this. Now this will pay 36-1 if all 4 can hit. We'll go ahead and take Connor McDavid in what should be a higher scoring game in Buffalo to me. We'll take an Avalanche player too. I'll take Lankinen, Arturi Lankinen at plus 155 for his goal.
I like that.
And then I'll take one from each side in Utah, and I'll take Austin Matthews and Dylan Guenther. 2 phenomenal players, the leaders of their team, undeniably. So the 4 of those together, Matthews, Guenther, McDavid, and Lankinen, $10 will win you 360.
That's a pretty good one, Steve. I could see all those guys scoring really. Some key players there, good players for those teams.
Hey, how about this tomorrow night, Dave? Just looking at the slate real quick tomorrow night, we do have Florida at Boston. So how about a Brad Marchand goal coming home to Boston tomorrow night?
Yeah, a little revenge goal. I love it. Good angle there, Steve. And any Caps fans, we'll just let you know they're going to be on the West Coast. So if you're watching them games, you're going to have to stay up late. They're 10 p.m. starts. So they got their West Coast road swing coming.
Yeah,
up.
all these teams are heading east. I mean, we have the Rangers at Winnipeg. Montreal will be in Vancouver. The Islanders will be at the Kings. All of these games important for all of these teams, really, at this point. Nashville still, who I threw in a penalty box now, has won 3 in a row. So they're finding their way out of the penalty box. They'll be at San Jose. So a lot of later action after 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night.
All right, Steve, final order of business. Let's throw them in the penalty box. We got some stinkies coming up.
All right.
And I know exactly who I'm going to throw in there.
Guys, Mike, come on. You can't do that. That was probably number 10, 2 minutes for I got 82, Tampa, tripping.
All right, go ahead. Who do you got?
All right, losers of 5 in a row. You've probably figured it was coming, Steve. A team that needs to take care of business, and they are not doing it. Can they turn it around? I'm just not so sure. We're going to put the Detroit Red Wings, Steve, into the penalty box tonight.
I'll go ahead and throw Minnesota in there. Losing to Pittsburgh, not impressive at all. They lost a couple in a row. They've just been at 500. They can't find themselves in any kind of higher scoring game. If you've been betting over team total goals for Minnesota all season, you're getting clobbered. So we'll throw the Wild in the penalty box on my end.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. Steve, anything to add before we get out of here for these 7 o'clock puck drops?
Yeah, I'll do a bet to the future tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll look at some of these conference tournaments for the NCAA. We'll do a Sizzling podcast on Wednesday. Sizzling is now on Spotify and on Apple and everywhere there, and we're working on getting the rest of the programs on all those platforms as well. So good news on that front. More programming to come. Season 2, Inquisition Unknown ? I got a lot of emails out there and got some responses, so we could have some interesting stuff ahead with that as well.
All right. Good notes there, Steve. Plenty of content to come. So we'll definitely keep y'all posted on that. For us here, what the puck is going on this evening. We will see you next time, Thursday evening.
What the puck is going on?